Women's International League for Peace and Freedom show, The Wake Up Call, on WCOM LP, Chapel Hill and Carver, 103.5 on your FM dial, or live streaming at WCOMFM.org. You can also watch the show on the People's Channel after a week's delay on Thursday night at 10, Friday morning at 6 a.m., or Tuesday at noon. The show will also be available on our YouTube channel, Wilf Wake Up Call. I'm Iris Schwinzer here with our host, Lori Hoyt, and Emily O'Hara on the camera, and today our special guest is William Davis.
Thank you.
Thank you, Iris, and welcome, William. I'm glad we could work this out. I think Emily and I first knew about William at the Carborough Poetry Festival, and there was a panel of some of the best poets, including William, at Flyleaf Bookstore, and we were just blown away, and just said, boy, we got to get him on our show.
Oh yeah, it was an honor to be up there with Jackie Shelton Green, Poet Laureate of North Carolina, the first African American Poet Laureate of North Carolina. So just to share that energy and that atmosphere with her, it was just an honor.
It was a wonderful evening, and we particularly really were taken with you because there's some really, really good poets, but they don't always project, or their voice doesn't do their poetry the justice that it could. And we particularly like not only the content of your poetry, but your voice and how you could get the poems across. And so I think we'll start out. I think when you came on that night, you said you were also a spoken word poet, and I think I told you just before the show that one of our Wilp sisters, Miriam, said to be sure to ask you, what's the difference between a spoken word poet and a regular poet? And maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
I would say a spoken word artist, they really embody the poem. They really put so much more of themselves into the poem. And I'm not saying in the aspect of writing the poem, but the performance aspect, opposed to just reading the poem and enjoying that from a literary standpoint, but really almost being an actor and really tapping into that character. There's a good friend of mine, and she has a poem about watching her ex-boyfriend commit suicide. And the poem is so heavy. The woman's name is Ayana out of Durham. Please look for Ayana. She's won plenty of poetry slams, but I use her as an example because that's not something that she can just read. She really has to tap into that feeling and that movie in her head and really get into that. So I've seen her perform that poem 5 times, and I've seen her cry 5 times. And before she performed the poem, she was just happy. So I honestly, my opinion, is just the feeling that a poet evokes on that spoken word piece, and really enjoying that performance and really tapping into that without even care of the audience. And a poet really puts emphasis on the lines that they wrote, as the spoken word artist puts emphasis on the feeling behind it. And that's my take on that.
Well, that is really helpful. I think that's part of where we were particularly taken with you, because you're right. It's not just the poem, and it is a literary thing. And we've had poets on, and we just love having poets on. But when it's a spoken word, that is that extra feeling that really gets you feeling it so much, along with the poet who's doing the spoken word performance. And I guess it is a performance, and it's just wonderful. They used to be at Flyleaf once a month, the spoken word sort of slam. People, different ones would come, and they finally moved from there. And we used to love going to that, and I think that's really makes poetry particularly enjoyable to me.
Yeah, I think that poetry is very easily accessible. So for you to bring me in here and ask me to share my work, that I take the time and put on paper, I really appreciate. But you could easily go on YouTube and find a poem. But when you see someone perform a spoken word piece, it really leaves you with something. So considering that, you can go to the library, you can go to Flyleaf, you can go anywhere, you can Google on your phone a poem. But the difference between just reading a poem and going on YouTube and searching a spoken word poem, it's two different feelings that you're going to get.
Yeah, that really clarifies it a lot for me. And Miriam, I hope it clarifies it for you. So William, tell us a little bit about how you got started in poetry, a little bit about yourself. Where are you from?
I'm originally from Michigan. I've lived in North Carolina a little bit over 10 years now.
Okay.
And growing up, I was a writer. I kind of wrote for myself. And my mother was in prison most of my life, and my father battled with drug addiction. So at 14, I was emancipated. And for those of you who do not know what emancipated means, that means your parent goes downtown. My father went to the courthouse and he signed a piece of paper for me to be a legal adult at 14. So just really dealing with the tribulations of adolescence and putting myself through high school. And my mother, the lady that I call my mother, her name is Barb Haywood. I love her to death. She let me live with her. And I kind of wrote to myself all the time, just really writing my feelings down, and I really didn't share much. I was kind of an introvert. My task was to graduate high school. Like, I was very tunnel visioned. Despite everything that's going around you, you need to graduate high school. And like, that was my main focus in basketball. And I remember my English teacher, she kicked me out of the classroom quite often because I was just a knucklehead. And we had a compensation notebook that she gave us, and she let us know that you have to write every day. And I may or may not read what you write in there, but you need to write and turn it back in at the end of the class. And one day she came up to me in the hallway and she says, "As much as you get on my nerves, Mr. Davis, I really hope that you pay attention to how awesome of a writer that you are, because you are an amazing poet." Never really heard that word before. I consider myself like a rapper, but I was really writing poems. And it just kind of really stood out to me for this lady to kick me out of her classroom and really, at the drop of a dime, kick me out and really not care if I was in there or not. For her to take the time to be excited about something that I took my time with really, really made me appreciate writing to a whole nother level. And I guess that was my 10th or 11th grade year. And from just then on out, I just always would write and kind of share my work with some of my friends. And when I moved to North Carolina, I heard of a poetry slam at the Hayti Heritage Center hosted by a phenomenal artist by the name of Dasan Ahanu. He's worldwide known. And just seeing spoken word poetry for the first time really let me know that this is something that I need to be doing, because I was literally just writing in notebooks and filling them up.
How old were you then?
That was maybe 7-8 years ago. So I'm 30. I'll be 32 in March. So
this was into adulthood that you heard.
Yeah, this was into adulthood at the Hayti in Durham, and from there, I literally probably got 7 poets' phone number that night, and I just reached out to them and just really picked their brain on how to go about this the right way. How do I learn my poems? How do I write better? And I went to a lot of writing classes, and me and Dasan went out to lunch quite often. There's another poet by the name of Joseph Churchill. He goes by the name of Church the Poet. He hosts an open mic in Raleigh every Wednesday. That was my home for 2 years, where I would go there and really sharpen my pen and really become who people know today as Endless Will. You mentioned today that you told someone that I was going to be here, and they said, "Oh, I know that guy," because I've recited poems a lot of places here in North Carolina. So it's not surprising that somebody knows who I am that I don't know, because I've really presented myself for a very long time.
So you've gone by the stage name of Endless Will?
Yep, that is my stage name, Endless Will.
Endless Will. So what brought you to North Carolina from Michigan?
I really just didn't want to be the same person that I was made to be. And that's literally why I came to North Carolina. I did not want to be the typical working person, not having any dreams, and like, not saying that I couldn't have been the artist I am now, but I didn't see any of that growing up. I seen alcohol, weed, domestic violence, it's just seen a lot of struggle, a lot of struggle. And I have my daughter. My daughter, she'll be 11 in March, and my daughter was 2-3 months. She was maybe 2 or 3 months old, and I was like, I don't want to grow up with my daughter here. I don't want to be this. And my aunt, she lives in Raleigh, and she always raved about Raleigh in North Carolina, and I didn't even consider it twice. I told she's my ex-wife now, but the mother of my kids, we need to move to North Carolina, and she was on the same wavelength as I am in regards to she didn't want to see that anymore. She grew up in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I grew up in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and we just really realized that we just wanted something different for ourselves.
A whole new change,
Just a whole new change.
New friends, new
everything.
people.
And it's very funny, like, growing up, I've played basketball my whole life. And even from something as simplistic as how I changed how I play basketball. Like, all my life, I was drive hard to the right and make a layup. You can dribble very good. And I remember when I moved to North Carolina, I said, I'm going to be a shooter now. I'm going to be known as a person who can shoot a jump shot. And now when I play basketball, it's like, don't leave William open because he can shoot. And my friends from Michigan came to visit me, and they're like, oh my goodness, you didn't play like that growing up. So like I really, really changed or evolved my whole mindset and just wanting to be so much better for my children. And the way that they are growing up lets me know that I made the right decision.
Oh, wow. That's, I think that search for identity and to search for authenticity, too many young people don't realize they're in that search and get stuck. And good for you. You had that inner realization that you needed to really make some changes in order to realize the direction you were trying so hard to go into.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So you came here, and Aunt encouraged you, and came at that point with your wife, and was it one child when you first came, or you already?
No, we have two. I have a 12-year-old son, and when we first moved down here, he was 2, and then I had a 3-4-month-old daughter, and it was my mother of my kids, Katrina, and my 2 kids, and we just hit North Carolina and just really took care of ourselves, and unfortunately we grew apart, but we're best friends now. Like, we have a good time, and we take care of our kids together in the same way to do so, but we just kind of grew apart in regards to our relationship, but no love lost. Like, I'm married now, and she's in a happy relationship now, so our life has still pursued success even without us, and we're very, very involved in our kids' lives, the kids that we made together. So, like, that's the best part about it, is that we're still on that same path of making sure our kids know what success is.
Yes, and that mother and daddy both love them and are involved in their care and their growing up. That's really good.
Oh, yes.
So you came here, and you'd already from childhood were embarked on writing and into poetry, and was it? I lost track. Was it after you came here that Hayti that you heard?
Yep, that was the first time I ever stepped on stage. Was at the Hayti Heritage Center, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with Poetry Slam, but a Poetry Slam, it is 3 rounds, a handful of poets, and the lowest score, based upon random judges picked out in the crowd, the lowest score gets kicked out. And I really went there in pursuit to win. Like, just my confidence is like way too high all the time, all the time. So I went there in pursuit. So I know I'm going to win this. I've been writing for forever, and I didn't know anybody there, but I really went there to win. And I lost the first round, lowest score of the first round. So opposed to one thing that I really appreciate about myself is I am very confident, and if I lose, I want to know why. What did I do? What can I do differently? Opposed to sulking in the loss and just giving up. So the person that I was with, they wanted to leave. Like, well, you're not even competing anymore. Like, let's just leave and go get dinner. And I don't even think I heard her words, because I was so focused on the amazement of the poets who are still in the crowd.
Yeah.
The poet that won, his name is Javon Rustin. He lives in Texas now, and he performed a poem about his brother having sickle cell, and how he can see his younger brother hurt without anybody being able to heal him. Really spoke volume to me. And as soon as the event was over, I made a beeline to him and just was picking his brain apart. Like, how did you do that? Like, how did you write something about him, but you put that emotion into it. And like again, like these just really gave me his phone number, and we talked quite often. There was another poet by the name of John Le Carre out of New Orleans, who I met off of Facebook, and really just was a big fan of his work still to this day. And I reached out to him and got his number, and just so the Desans, the Javons, the John Le Carres, the Church, the Poets, the Geminis. There's so many poets that I'm hoping that you listeners are writing their names down that I reached out to, and they really helped me find my own voice.
Well, and that could almost be, you could write a little essay for young people how to make it in the world, you know, to, if you don't do well, to not see that as a defeat, but what can I do better? And you're reaching out to those who you saw as a little further advanced, particularly in the ability to do spoken word. And like, what did you say? Pick their brains and do everything you could to learn from them. And that seems like such a guarantee, not maybe a guarantee of success in what you're trying to do.
It almost is. If you
But
are,
it almost
it
is.
almost is a guarantee. If you're losing and you see someone winning, find out what they are doing,
Yeah.
and it almost is a guaranteed success. But
Yeah.
I feel like what you're hitting on is I really had to take a step back and realize this isn't about William. If you enjoy this poetry artwork so much, find out what you're not doing, where you're not getting it's not even necessarily the reaction, but your poems weren't that good.
Mm-hmm.
In comparison to what you're hearing, you need to really find out how you need to write these things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that was what, 8 or 9 years ago?
Yeah, that was it's 2019 now. That was about 2012, 2003, 2013.
Wow.
And since then, 2016 through 18, Poet Laureate of Hillsborough. I have
That was in 16.
Yeah, in 2016, I was appointed the Poet Laureate of Hillsborough.
Wow.
And that was just phenomenal. The first African American Poet Laureate of Hillsborough, and the youngest Poet Laureate of Hillsborough ever. And so that's it's just an honor for me. And as I was presented with the title by Mayor Tom Stevens, my daughter, I asked the mayor, I said, do you mind if my daughter brings me up on stage, and she writes poems as well. So to share that with her, before the mayor called me up, he called my daughter up, and my daughter read a poem, and she says, now I'm going to bring my dad up, the new 2016 Poet Laureate of Hillsborough, and it just was amazing for my family and for my daughter and for myself to just share that moment with her. And she'll remember that for the rest of her life. Whether she writes another poem, she's going to remember when my dad received this title, I gave him that award.
Yeah. Oh, that's a wonderful story. And you're right, you're very young. We always think of poet laureates as getting that honor when they, you know, have quite a few years on them. And so I think that says something about the quality of your poetry.
Thank you.
And that you must be a really quick learner. That was not that long since you've been in Hayti. It's what, about 8 years later?
Yeah, it was about 5-6 years later.
Yeah,
and
that you're
I
a
was
poet
presented.
laureate, yeah.
And that's why, like I mentioned before, last year was probably the most taking a back seat of poetry that I have ever done. But as I mentioned, I'm in school right now to get this psychology degree, and I still write every day. But the sense of presenting my work, I don't go to a lot of open mics anymore because I have to study, and I coach 2 basketball teams, and I'm a father. Like, I'm really involved in my kids' lives, and they're to the point now where they need that. Like before I pulled up here, I was just shooting free throws with my son for 30 minutes, and he has a basketball game tomorrow. So it's really appreciating, enjoying writing. Like, you don't have to present everything that you write, and these things that you're writing, that nobody may not ever hear them, but you're still writing, you're still sharpening your pen, and I'm learning so much in these psychology classes and the sociology class and this ethics class, but I can't wait until I present my work again, because it's just my poetry has grown so much from last year, for me not in such pursuit to share.
Yeah, sometimes we need to go within and have that quietness or that silence within before giving it out to others, and to really, you know, be within ourselves to really deepen what you're struggling to say and feel. Yeah.
We need to hear a poem.
Pardon?
We need to hear one.
Yeah, well,
That sounds great.
my goodness. Thank you, Iris.
Iris is straight to the point. I am
entranced with your life and your trajectory of yes.
Let's hear it.
Love
So
you.
I know that when I go to Eris's house, that I'm just going to probably just eat, because she's like going to say, she just said, we need to hear a poem. So the name of this poem is called Bitter. I'm bitter. I've been broken down, head low like the self-esteem of unfulfilled dreams, dismissing on a foresight for supposed to, while my person repeats to itself, you are a winner. I'm bitter for always needing to win. Angry that there is even a game to play for the win. Sometimes the game being played being amount of cash you get, title you represent, or number of relationships, maybe even a game of shirts and skins, color and flags, kneel and who's standing, nationality or gender or religion or job or street or gang or education or finances. So many ors. I'm bitter. I'm bitter because of these ors. Our needed self-convictions, these restrictions on our minds, as if thoughts are boxed, chained and locked to what we are taught, imagination evaded for needed education of hatred, comparison, and not being better than. I am bitter, broken, and beaten. Most days I feel defeated as my legs move in motion of routine. Life's treadmill under my feet. Awake, work, sleep, awake, work, sleep, repeat, repeat, repeat. I'm bitter because I'm starting to notice it. As I'm trying to focus on to commit, eyes targeted again, I'm focused. Like predator onto prey. Food being opportunity as the chase mirrors my accuracy while disadvantage makes me miss, but I don't quit. Those things the world sees me as another stereotype, good, but just not quite. One out of every number, potential prison number, fallen number, another trying to be more than just a number, which makes me just another number. I'm bitter, but I'm just glad that I'm starting to notice it. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I wrote that poem just, life really is extremely heavy with me being a person of color. My wife is white, and we don't have any kids together, but she has 2 kids that she brought to our relationship, and I have kids that I brought to our relationship, and quite often I can't even pick my son up from school without somebody in his classroom asking who I am, and he's like, that's my dad. And they're like, no, it's not. You're white and he's black. And like he hears that often. I just took him to basketball practice the other day, and I coached my son's team, and he came to practice with us, and the kids on the team was like, who's that kid in the Carolina Panthers jersey? And I'm like, that's my son. And even the kids are like, no, it's not. He's white. You're black. And my son feels the effect of this. And he says it. We get in the car. He said, I am so tired of people saying you're not my dad because of our skin is different. And just to have these conversations over dinner is I'm bitter. I'm bitter about it. Like, when can this not be the focal point of life? And that's where that poem derived from.
Yeah. So you're now parenting 4 children.
5. I have 3 kids. I have 3 kids with my ex-wife. Josiah is 12, Janiyah is 10, and Jordan is 9. Awesome kids. My son Jordan, he's in the 3rd grade. He just won the spelling bee for the whole 3rd grade. Awesome. And then my wife's kids, my kids, their names are Jaden and Madeline. And Jaden is a 4th grader, and he won the spelling bee for the whole school. So he'll be competing at Duke in March. And my wife, she's a writer as well, and we both really focus on education and writing. When my kids get home from school, they have to do their chores, 20 minutes of reading, and they have to write about what they read. And they've been doing that for the past 3 years, where it's second nature. So my wife, we have this conversation quite often, like, yes, William didn't make you, Jaden, or my kids, Kathy didn't make you, but the way that we love you, like, yes, we're your parents, and don't let anybody convince you that we're not, because the world's going to try to convince you that I'm not. Like, I can't even come to your classroom and read to the class without your best friend questioning my love for you. Like, that's literally how crazy the world is.
Yeah. Wow. So you have quite a big household.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yes, as I was just left, my wife was preparing my kids for dinner, and my Jaden, my fourth grader, he has wrestling practice tonight, and my daughter, when I leave here, she has basketball practice tonight. Every kid in our house plays sports. They all read, they're all write, they're very, very respectful, and even if they didn't want to, my wife and I are very particular on do something, because time will be spent, and whether your time is spent exercising on a sport that you don't like, you're going to be spent on electronics or just being bored in the bed. Like, the time is going to be spent somehow, so you might as well spend it like doing something that's going to be good for your mind and your heart and your body.
Well, I'm impressed with not only your poetry, but your parenting. I wish I had thought of some of that when I was raising my 5 kids.
Yeah.
But do we have time for another poem before the station
Let's
break?
do the station break.
Okay, we're going to do a station break, then we'll come back to some more poetry.
Oh yes, thank you. I've got plenty more. I brought 2 books for you.
Okay.
This is Will's Wake Up Call on WCOM LP Chapel Hill and Carver, 103.5 FM. You can stream us live at WCOMFM.org.
Okay, and I just have 2 announcements. There'll be a Women's March/Rally on Saturday in Raleigh at 1 p.m. That's nice for the sleepyheads on Saturday morning, not to have to get up too early. And they'll be gathering in front of the Legislative Building on Jones Street and then marching to Halifax Mall, where there'll be speakers. So we want to encourage everybody who can to go. This week's Indy, picking up on women's issues, the headline for the Indy this week is "Are You a Feminist?" And they asked several men in the triangle some pointed questions about women and relationships. So the other announcement, we just make it each week to build up for what we call HK on J, that Reverend Barber started, I think 15 years ago, something like that. And HK on J stands for Historic Thousands on Jones Street. And it's every year on the second Saturday in February. So this year that will be February 9th. And that'll be at 9 a.m. In Raleigh. And so we usually have many, usually thousands go to that. There is historic thousands. So please put it on your calendar and plan to go. There'll be buses. The NAACP is chartering a couple of buses. Usually some churches do. So I want to encourage everybody to be there for HK on J. And let's hope that we don't have a freezing cold Saturday either time, either March. Okay, but going back, we have a wonderful poet on today, William Davis, the former poet laureate of Hillsborough, and he has told us some about his life and writing since he was a child, and now we're having the treat of some of his poetry.
That sounds good. In respect for the conversation that I had and the disrespect that people have for something that's never going to change. I'm always going to be black and my son's always going to be white. And I wrote this poem and just in respect of that view, I guess.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure when we all die that the first thing that God is going to do is apologize. God will say sorry for the many shades and the hues of our different views, this lack of understanding of what he or she created. I'm pretty sure that God will say sorry. I'm confident that he or she will explain color and let us know that we took it all out of context, and God will ask, why are we so scared of color? Why are we so proud of color? He or she will ask, why did we put so much importance on beauty? He or she will explain to the point that imagination implants imagery into explanation, and God, with such conviction, will tell us simply that on one rainy heaven day, he or she was feeling creative, so God began a beautiful painting, and our colors was what was created, letting us know that every unique color used made perfection from his or her point of view. And when he or she, our God, looked at that creation, he or she didn't see hatred, discrimination, or pride of importance on different portions of his or her painting. He or she just saw God, which is us, meaning you. I'm sure that God will then wave hand, create a massive rainbow with the beauty of newborn innocence soothing, and God will then ask us, which one of these colors represents your world's hate? With no answer to speak, God will then teach that every one color, every shade, and every hue that we view is God, meaning us, meaning you, and he or she will then say, I am so sorry for all of the confusion. God will then tell us that it doesn't even matter now because we are in heaven. God will then laugh, mocking our coined phrase of God don't make no mistakes, and again he or she will apologize for the black, the white, the yellow, the red, all of these colors, and mainly the uncomfortability of what our eyes seen and what we decided to worldly point out, and God will explain that we are now one. We have risen above the clouds, so smile, put outer down, lay to bury the worry and pride of our outside, and God will then open arms wide, consoling away our much needed loss with a hug, and he, or she, our God, will let us know that we can finally live now. Thank you.
Oh, wow.
Thank you so much.
Are your books at Flyleaf?
I had my books at Flyleaf and at Ninth Street bookstore as well, and they just sold out. Like I take them there and they sell out. And so
I'm
right
not
now,
surprised.
yeah, right now, the book that I just read that from is called Falling Apples, and I wrote this in 2017, and it's available on Barnes & Noble and Amazon.com. And then my first book is called Broken Perception, and it just kind of goes through in a little bit in depth through poetry in regards to just changing the view of what someone has on you. Like I remember being a 11th grader, my Spanish class. My Spanish teacher told me in front of everybody I was a lost kid. I was very confident in the wrong way. I was paying my own bills and taking care of myself. So in the sense of an educator telling me something, I wasn't on the same level as the rest of the kids in the classroom when I'm going home and I'm my parent. And a lot of teachers didn't know that because I kept it to myself. And I remember my teacher, Miss Strasser, I remember her very vividly. She told me in front of the whole class, William, you will never be anything besides a product of your environment. You are horrible. And I remember her telling me this, and the whole class gasped. I can't believe she just said that to me. And it just so happened that the principal was walking past when she said it, and she took me out of that classroom, and she allowed me to be a teacher's aide for my African studies teacher named Mr. Washington. And it's so funny how it went full circle, because just last year, the school that I graduated from reached out to me considering all the work that I do here in North Carolina. And will you please come here and speak to the students? And they knew I was a troubled kid. I got caught selling drugs in school. I was a horrible kid with no guidance. And for me to be pursued to come and speak at the same school that I almost got arrested at quite a few times was phenomenal to me. And the first thing that I did is I found Miss Strasser's classroom. And I said, Miss, and as soon as she seen me, she knew exactly who I was. She remembered.
She was still there.
Yeah, she's still there, and I don't look any different. Unfortunately, I don't have that age gene. I still look like I'm 17, unfortunately.
You do, yeah.
And as soon as I walked in the classroom, all the students were in the auditorium, and I shut the door, and you can tell she was nervous. And I said, Miss Strasser, I'm not here to fuss at you. I just really hope you know you were wrong. What you said of me and thought of me when I was a kid was wrong, and I really hope that you have stopped killing dreams. Because if I was a weaker student, I would have believed you. And I just went and did my speech at the school, and I really hope that she remembered. Miss Strasser, if you're listening or you will ever listen to this, I still to this day, I don't have any negative tone to you, but you tried to kill my dreams that day, and I didn't really pay attention to it. I was affected that she embarrassed me. But I really hope that even teachers, not even Ms. Strasser, don't kill kids' dreams based upon your perception of them. And my wife's a teacher now, and I have to remind her, yes, this student frustrates you, but this student is a student of you for a year. And for you to really may think that this person is going to be this way for the rest of their life, this is just 1 year.
Yeah.
Nobody is what they are a year from now, and really have some type of appreciation for the growth, even if you don't see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boy, and Bette Ms. Strasser, I'm sure, learned a powerful lesson. I can't believe after you coming back and saying that to her that you would ever do that again to another kid. You know.
I really hope so. I really hope so. And
yeah.
I told some friends of mine, and they were like, man, don't go in there and say that to her. I said, no, I have to.
Yeah.
I have to go in there and say that to her, because I really hope that she's not evoking her opinion on somebody else.
Yeah.
Your job is to teach me Spanish. I don't care about your opinion. And for you to be so proud of your opinion on someone's life really is the wrong. That's not the right way to teach.
Yeah. William, didn't write down when you told the names of your books, and could you just tell us again the name of
Falling Apples.
Falling Apples?
Yep, Selected Poems, Falling Apples. This is available on barnesandnoble.com. It's all me. And then I have Broken Perception. And
Broken Perception.
Yeah, Broken Perception, and this is also available on barnesandnoble.com. And Broken Perception, I have 2 copies of it on Barnes & Noble. One is a child version, I guess, what you can say. It doesn't have any curse words and things of that nature. And some of the poems I've taken out just for the comforting ears. I taught, I was a TA at Stanback Middle School in Hillsborough last year and the year before that.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, and that's really gave me some aspiration of going to school to be a guidance counselor and get this psychology degree, because being a teacher was fun. Being a teacher was fun, but there's so much more that I want to do opposed to teach a curriculum.
So when you taught at Stanback, what grade? That's a middle school?
It's a middle school, yeah. I was a TA at Stanback, so I helped in all grades, 6th, 7th, and 8th, and substituted quite often, but I was there all the time. But it just really gave me some insight on what I wanted to do opposed to being a teacher. I don't necessarily like teaching a curriculum, but I love teaching kids and talking to kids.
Yeah.
And so that just really lit the fire of, young man, you need to get this psychology degree.
Yeah, and you have such a gift and such sensitivity to what kids can be struggling with, and I imagine that you would be such an asset to any school in whatever capacity.
I appreciate it. You just don't understand how much that, if you can say all the good things about my poetry, but for you to really say that about my personality and what I want to do, that really means a lot. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Could you read us
Oh, yes.
another poem?
This poem is called Me. There is more to me than what you see. A man standing just a little shy of 6 feet with size 11.5 feet in his hair reciting poetry. No, I am a man that's deep. Deeper than every ocean and sea, and can relate to their ways because no one really knows how deep. I am my own mystery. Product of my past miseries, my present victories, and I am so looking forward for what's next for me. In this athletic, slender frame, I have so much to gain. And for those of you who think you know me because you know my name, I am an endless beach, and what you know is just a simple grain. I look at life with so much to gain. Born as a mere lump of clay and was molded into this by life's everyday maze and endless obstacles. My way of thinking is illogical compared to the norm, while being so thankful that this is the way that I was born, and I refuse to conform. In this sticky honeycomb of life, I strayed away from the swarm to start my own hive. I can't relate to started from the bottom, now I'm here, because I have no here. There is no cap to my there. My definition of success and an abyss can be compared. My euphoria is endless. My strive, relentless. Even as a little cum shot from my dad's spot, I promise myself to be committed, and me being here today proves to you that I did it. My journey will never be finished. I am a story without an ending because I have planted my seeds and I care for them, watering them with wisdom, giving them more than everything that they need. They are the reason why I can only succeed. You see, there is more to me than what you see. Behind this frame stands a lot of glory and shame, but I realize that through all my past worries that I only have me to blame, meaning that it is up to me to change, so I do it. And for those of you who want to try to criticize and scrutinize, keep it to yourself, because your opinion of me is just useless. Literally so unavailing, because I feel that me worrying about what others think will result in steps towards me failing. So instead, I stay sailing on a boat driven by will, defined in the Webster's Dictionary as intend, desire, drive, and want. So again, I'm driven by will. And with that as my name, ladies and gentlemen, how can I fail?
I love it.
That's
I love
great.
it. Sailing your own boat.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. I feel like life is really about like self-pursuit. And I tell the kids that I coach, and I tell my kids that often, and I'm pretty sure you guys can relate, like your parents did not put you in the position to be a radio host. I'm pretty sure that that's not something that they told you to do. But in the sense of you driving your own boat and finding what your own passions were, you're a successful radio host. So I feel like there are so many people who are just going through the template of what their parents are telling them to do, or what their friends are telling them to do. And that is a recipe for failure. Once you find out what you're supposed to be doing and what drives you, then that's like really success right there.
Yeah.
And this is it. I have the word poetry tattooed on my body, and I wear it with pride. I play basketball all the time, and I have a basketball game on Friday. And that's so funny. I always have a cutoff shirt on, and I'm so out there passionate about it, and bumping adults and fussing with them. And then they're like, "What's that on your arm? Poetry?" And it just really blows their mind. That somebody, it really blows their mind, because the two doesn't mold in someone's perspective or thought of how someone's supposed to be.
Well, it's another stereotype we have, you know, of a poet being kind of a pale guy, sort of with drinking too much,
Oh,
and
yes.
suffering up in an attic somewhere. I mean, we have all these stereotypes about so many things.
Oh, yes.
And I'm sure that you being a poet and a basketball player, and you know, and your poetry is so full of life and so full of energy, and with so much thought in it too, and your use of words. It's very much similar to what hip hop.
Oh, yes.
The rhythm, just wonderful. And Emily's a retired teacher, and I know she said you had read some poem about your students or something, and she commented on that. So I was wondering, and then when you mentioned about teaching at Standback for a couple of years there.
Oh, yes. I have a poem that I love. I love this poem a lot. And I read this to my kids quite often, just in the sense of like what they're not supposed to be. I have this motto that my wife and I really have our kids chant quite often before they walk out the door, and it's, "How do you succeed today in school?" And they say it very dry because they're tired of it, but you go there, you get the work done, and you get out. That is literally what you're supposed to do. And if your friend's having a bad day, you don't worry about that, because you go in, you get the work done, and you get out. So here it is right here. Dear students, today I asked you to listen, as it was my intention to teach, but the constant class distractions, the unnecessary question asking, the backpack fumbling, the under the breath mumbling, and the paper crumbling, just all of the extra, made it hard for me to give my educational lecture. And you students question my frustration, as I've explained and explained, rephrased and explained, but yet you say you don't get it. I blame it on your effort and the lack thereof, plus your opposition of commitment, and then you wonder why you get the grades you get. Dear students, I have to say it again because I am sure you have stopped paying attention. Me acknowledging you directly ever so often is required, is what I have learned. Class, repeat what you just heard. What's this word? Stop playing. What did you just say? Young man, keep your hands to yourself. And no, you can't go to the bathroom. You should have done that before class. Class, please get quiet. Class, be quiet. Students, focus. I said students, focus. Why must we digress? Dear students, I want you to know that my heart I am giving you. Myself once falling victim to a distraction, so I am begging you and pleading and asking that you see you as I see you, which is this portion of strength. Don't appreciate my effort and don't give thanks. Just respect that I know that you have what it takes. You all are amazing. You just have to embrace it. Class is about to be over, so let's go over today's lesson. You all are amazing when you try. An effort should never die. Tomorrow's homework, which everyone should have, is to write a paper to your future you. Just think of all of the questions that you're going to ask. You know what? I think today went well. Tomorrow, they will turn in their homework, all of them. I am sure of it. I can't wait until tomorrow because today, they understood. Good morning, class. Please get out your homework from yesterday. Wait, what? You don't have it? What do you mean you don't have it? Raise your hands if you have it higher. Let me see your elbows over your heads. Reach for the success that I am trying to show you how to achieve and realize that it is in arm's reach, a stretch for a better next, which seems obvious that you don't want as I try to teach, reach, and educate, but you would rather procrastinate and even worse, evade. So it seems that reach for you students is a self-sabotage missing, leaving your want for accomplished dreams empty. Dear students, I hope one day soon you all will wake up.
Wow. A teacher's prayer, huh?
Yeah, a teacher's prayer. I read that to my wife. My wife teaches now at Gravely, and she really enjoys that poem, and I've shared that poem to quite a few students and faculty, and as I was at Standback, I read it for a couple of the classes, and I feel like for a couple of days after they heard the poem, like they were really on top of it. But the thing about habits is that they're hard to break.
Yes,
And
they are.
even for students who want to succeed, they're used to their paper being crumbled up, or they're used to asking to go to the bathroom excessively. So just trying to remind them, like, these are just habits that you have formed since kindergarten, and like no teacher or no parent or your best friend, nobody can break that besides you. So
Yeah.
like that's why I'm really so excited about the day that I graduate and get this psychology degree, and I can sit in my office and really give insight on someone's self. Like I'm really like hoping for that. I can't wait.
Yeah, and guidance counselors can make such a difference in children's lives. And I remember when I was getting a divorce and my kids, one of them was quite young and having a hard time in, I think, 4th grade. And the guidance counselor was really good. She would have a small group of them who were struggling with issues in their family, so they didn't feel singled out.
Oh yes.
And that was very creative at the time. I don't know if they still do it now, but you know, she'd take them in for half an hour, and it was really helpful to my daughter.
Oh yes, very helpful.
Yeah.
Because I find that a lot of the kids who are seeking that, I don't know, like attention has a negative connotation to it, but seeking that extra love or guidance,
Understanding.
that understanding, and typically those are kids who don't necessarily who are like doing good in school. They're doing good in class, so that extra 30 minutes away from that math class, they're not going to get behind because they are already behind because they're focused on the distractions behind them. So
Yeah.
like through poetry and sports, I really can't wait to be the yelling basketball coach who's asking my basketball team to write how they feel about that practice, because that's not what's done. I really study basketball to the T, and I can't wait to really adapt some self-awareness into what I enjoy doing so much, and with the poetry and just the conversations, and I'm just really looking forward to that. So I really appreciate the smiles you ladies are giving me.
Yeah.
Giving me some good energy.
Good.
Oh yes.
So, okay, we got time for another couple of poems.
Oh yes. The poem that I'm going to share now is called Animals, and this one is out of Falling Apples. This is a poem that a lot of people like. I actually have a video for this poem. It's on YouTube, and it's just one of my favorite poems.
So if we went to YouTube, what would we look?
You look up Endless Will Poetry.
Endless Will Poetry.
Yep, Endless Will Poetry, and Endless Will. I think I'm the only Endless Will in the world, but like Google and YouTube, they've separated for some reason. They like Endless and then Will, but if it's all one word, Endless Will,
Okay.
and just type poetry afterwards, and you'll find my poems.
Okay, when we get on, it's going to be Wilp, W-I-L-P, after the Women's International, blah, blah, blah.
Awesome,
Wilp Wake Up Call.
great. Well, I can't wait to see this.
Okay, me either.
This is called Animals. If reincarnation is something, then I can't wait to be not human. symbol of divide, contest, compete, greed, this ugly, unstable constant, and the repeat of the same day. I want to be a lion, or maybe a bird, or even an elephant, anything but this. I really want to be more, because as humans, we haven't figured it out yet, and it seems like we will never figure it out. Religion, gender, race, finances, we seem to need to be complete while every other species just lives. Like, sometimes I wonder if bluebirds hate canaries, and if red robins hate crows. Do eagles hate hawks, or do they just look up to the sky and fly, looking down at our life, using wings to soar over our separation, our segregation? Do they feel sorry for our hatred and wonder why, or do they just fly while we die? I watched one of those YouTube documentaries once, and it explained that a lion, the king of the jungle, one of the most respected and feared animals, will only eat when it's hungry. Meaning gazelle and lion lives in harmony. Gazelle, knowing of its fate of eventually being ate, but it lives until then. With that being said, maybe hate is just hungry. And obviously diversity is his favorite munchie. I find it so funny that we can call an animal savage and wild, so we cage it, hunt it, and name it. And if it's an animal that's really wanted, we kill it and frame it. Then we have a person who society deems as worthless, savage and wild, so we cage them, hunt them, and name them. And if the person is really wanted, the world kills them, and media gives reason to frame them, deeming person as worthless, which helps us to blame them. Most days I question, and I find it so embarrassing that we can't even comprehend the comparison of how equal the way the world treats an animal to the way that we are treating our own people. We must change.
Wow. Wow.
Thank you.
That's marvelous.
Thank you so much.
That's marvelous.
I've got another one. This is called Face. This poem is called Face. This is to every woman in the world. Today I dare you. Today I dare you to be the world's ugly. Unafraid of your natural, I want to see you at your most comfortable. I know you have been tricked into thinking red lips, makeup, and all the other cosmetic stuff is what's needed, but believe me, that fresh face off the pillow, followed by that yawn which tells the world hello, that moment, that look in your face, squinted eye, bare all and unshy, hold it, ladies, because that is your beautiful. When you accept the need for no approval, unbothered by standards, grown so, no need to be pampered with blush, primmed hair all done up to eventually be taken down and rinsed in the drain to the graveyard of fake self-esteem where each tombstone reads more beautiful than the world's eyes could ever see. I promise you, every lady in the world, you all are perfect. And I don't mean perfect to my standards, because my validation is like telling my grandma that the food that she made tastes good. She already knows it and kind of scoffs at any approval I ask. That just as she is confident in her cooking, that is how you should feel about the way that you are looking. Again, you are beautiful. Like ocean waves being blessed with the light of sun rays. Perfection like rainbow arisen after rainy day. Each color in its place. Ladies, please love and admire your face.
We'll try to remember that.
Yes. Now, like I mentioned, I have a 10-year-old daughter, and she likes to play in the makeup and all that stuff. And I wrote that poem just in appreciation for how awesome she is. Like, she has a website that we're building right now. She's an artist. She's already sold some of her paintings at 10. And before I left the house, she was creating. And I'm not, like, bigging her up, because I'm not a painter. I don't know how to paint. That's something that she pursued herself, and she's good at it. So as her father, I need to put you in the opportunity, in the position to be good at it. So I built her a website, and I bought her the canvases and the polyurethane, and I let her know, sweetheart, it's okay for you to wear makeup and all that stuff and play around with it, but it's not needed, baby. You need to understand that you are beautiful, and despite what anybody ever says about you, you need to understand you are beautiful. Then you will understand you don't need to hear from anybody else.
Yeah, and to hear that from her father,
Yeah.
you know, for a
That's
little
great.
girl, I think is so powerful.
Oh yes, I hope so.
Yeah.
I really hope so.
They say that the father has such an impact on both boys and girls, and you know, too many kids don't have that privilege of having a father.
Oh my! I am the living testament of that.
Yeah.
As I mentioned,
Yeah.
my mother was locked up for 7 years of my life, from when I was
Yeah.
12 years old to when I was 19, like a pivotal time.
Mm.
And my father, he was absent as well. So I mentioned to my kids quite often, and I've taken them to where I grew up out in Michigan, and they've seen my father in his condition, and they know that my mother was in prison, and it's so crazy that, considering they don't live that life, they don't understand what I went through. And I'm just really reminded quite often is, don't try to remind them or give them insight on the things that you went through, because they will never fully understand it. You just need to really let them know. Don't take it. I let them know often, don't take advantage of me. Don't take advantage of me. Don't take advantage of me. If I'm taking you to basketball practice, you need to run, and you need to shoot, and you need to try, because you're taking advantage of, I could have been at home studying or writing or doing something different, opposed to you taking advantage of me. So I just really let them know that often.
Yeah, remind them, and so that they will appreciate that they have you and your wife parenting them.
Oh yes, I wrote this poem, as I mentioned. My mother, she did. She had a hard time in her life where she made a mistake. But the beauty thing about it is, I lived with my mother until I was 12, and then I had to live with my father. And the day that she got out of prison, made her blueberry pancakes, and it was like a day never missed. So one thing that I appreciate is my mom instilling care and love into me before she left, because that's what I really.
Those are critical years.
That's what I was living off of while she was gone.
Yeah.
So the day that she got out, and I don't think I mentioned to her ever about her being in prison, because it is what it is. Like, I've made mistakes too. So just really, really appreciating my mother, I wrote this poem for her. If you could imagine an angel, a lady angel, God's favorite angel, eating her favorite fruit while reading her favorite book on her birthday, just a day filled with angel joy. Now close your eyes and imagine that angel's face. That expression of happiness, literally the best smile that an angel can give. Now magnify that joyfulness by 10, and what you're looking at is my mother's smile. A smile so big that is what everyone usually notices first. An introduction with dimple on cheek, squinted eye, teeth brighter than a full moon on a cloudless summer night that you really can't help but notice and even smile back. I remember when I was a kid, my mom and I would play this game. It didn't have much of a name, and it didn't really make much sense. I would make silly voices mimicking her favorite cartoons, and I would win. When she laughed, I would always win. That's one of my favorite past memories. I have put it away in life's case, locked safe, and I glance when I need to smile. Her smile is what she gave me. A smile hand-drawn by God on paper, made from trees that grew in his garden. He etched each intricacy, putting so much detail into a smile that I have no choice but to believe in him and his want for my happiness, because when I was born and opened eyes for first time, her smile was what I seen. Enhanced by bright hospital light, I swear that I saw God in that gleam. They say, I have heard that when I was born, that I didn't even cry. I'm 100% sure that my mother's smile is the reason why I love you, Mama.
Beautiful. Well, I lost track of time, so I think we're going out on that beautiful poem. I didn't realize, I've just been so entranced.
Yes.
And so we've been listening to William Davis, and we're so blessed to have had you here.
Thank you. If anybody would like to reach out to me, it's Endless Will on Facebook. I don't have any Instagram or things of that nature anymore. Like as I mentioned, I'm really trying to put a lot of focus onto my kids and getting this degree. But if you reach out to me, I'd love to share some poems and tell you about what else I've got going on. But it's William Davis or Endless Will on Facebook.
Thank you.